The morning my sister announced that she was moving into my apartment complex, my mother called it a blessing. By the end of the same conversation, she had assigned me 37.5 hours of unpaid childcare each week. She did not ask. She presented it as an arrangement already approved by everyone who mattered. "You work from home," she said, "and Vivian needs a fresh start. This will keep little Milo with family instead of strangers." I looked at the sealed envelope lying beside my keyboard. It had arrived by certified mail 20 minutes earlier from the property management company. Inside was a copy of a lease application, a residency affidavit, and 3 pages bearing my name. Only one problem. I had never signed any of them. My name is Rachel Sutton. I was 46 then, and I worked as a senior compliance auditor for a regional mortgage lender. My days were spent reviewing records most people found unbearably dull: income verifications, signature histories, timestamp disclosures, identity documents, title reports. I liked dull records. Dull records rarely lied. People lied constantly. Paper usually waited patiently for someone to notice. My mother was still speaking. "She'll be in Building 4, practically across the courtyard. Isn't that wonderful?" I glanced through my living room window. Across the landscaped courtyard stood Building 4, recently repainted a soft cream color that looked expensive in photographs and slightly yellow in real life. A maintenance worker was pressure washing the sidewalk. Beyond him, 2 leasing agents were carrying gold balloons toward the clubhouse for that weekend's grand reopening event. Vivian would love it here. The pool had stone waterfalls. The fitness center had a wall of mirrors. The clubhouse smelled like citrus cleaner and staged ambition. Every corner looked designed for someone who wanted other people to believe she lived better than she did. My sister had always understood the value of a convincing background. "I didn't know Vivian had applied here," I said. There was a pause, not a surprised pause, a measuring one. "Well, she wanted to keep it quiet until everything was finalized." I picked up the residency affidavit. It stated that Vivian and her 3-year-old son would be living with me temporarily while her apartment was prepared. It also claimed I had agreed to guarantee her lease and provide weekday childcare as part of our shared household arrangement. At the bottom was a signature meant to resemble mine. It was not a terrible imitation. That bothered me more than a bad one would have. "Who told management she'd be living with me?" I asked. My mother sighed as if I had interrupted a pleasant conversation to discuss plumbing. "It's just paperwork, Rachel. There are sentences that reveal more than confessions." That was one of them. I leaned back in my chair. "Did Vivian use my name to qualify for the apartment?" She needed a local reference. "That isn't what I asked. You always make everything sound criminal." I turned the first page sideways and examined the signature again. The loop in the R was too wide. The final stroke slanted upward. My own signature had flattened over the years from signing thousands of audit certifications. Whoever had copied it had used an older example, perhaps a birthday card, perhaps a family document, perhaps one of the forms I had signed when my father's estate was settled. My mother continued in the soft, polished tone she used when she wanted to appear reasonable. "Vivian has been through a difficult year. She and Grant are separating. She's trying to rebuild her life. The least you can do is help with Milo while she gets back on her feet. The least I can do? You have flexibility. I have a job. You sit at home." I looked at the dual monitors on my desk, both filled with flagged loan files that required my full concentration. My family had never understood remote work because they had never wanted to. Understanding would have created boundaries. Misunderstanding gave them access. "I work from home," I said. "I do not stay home waiting for errands." "Rachel, he's 3. He'll play quietly." 3-year-olds did many wonderful things. Playing quietly for 7.5 hours while an adult reviewed regulatory violations was not among them. "What exactly has Vivian promised you?" I asked. Another pause. Then my mother said, "You're being negative before she's even arrived." That was how it had always worked. Vivian made the promise. My parents supplied the pressure. I absorbed the cost. When we were children, Vivian was the bright one, the pretty one. The one who could enter a room 5 minutes late and somehow make everyone grateful she had arrived. I was the careful one. I remembered appointments. I packed lunches. I found lost keys. I noticed when the electricity bill had not been paid and when our father's medication was running low. Useful children are often mistaken for willing adults. By 12, I knew where my mother kept the emergency cash. By 14, I was proofreading Vivian's school essays. By 16, I was covering for her when she stayed out past curfew. Whenever I objected, my mother used the same phrase. Don't make your sister look bad. The frame mattered. What was inside it did not. Vivian became a lifestyle consultant, although no one in the family could clearly explain what that meant. She posted photographs of hotel lobbies she had not stayed in, restaurant tables other people had paid for, and borrowed handbags positioned carefully beside cappuccinos. She had nearly 40,000 followers. My mother mentioned that number more often than she mentioned Vivian's actual income. I had $900 left on my car loan, a fully funded retirement account, and no social media page at all. To my family, this meant Vivian was successful and I was private because I had nothing worth showing. I need to go, I told my mother. I'm working, so you'll help? No, the word was so simple that she seemed not to recognize it. With what? With daily childcare? Rachel, no, you haven't even discussed the schedule. I don't need the schedule. Vivian has job interviews. Then she should arrange childcare. She can't afford it. Then she can't afford this apartment. My mother's voice cooled. You have become very hard. I looked at the forged signature. No, I said. I've become very specific. I ended the call and immediately scanned every page in the envelope. Then I created a folder on my computer. I named it Vivian Residency Issue. Professionally, I had learned that the first name given to a problem often determines how seriously people treat it. Family misunderstanding sounded emotional. Residency issue sounded reviewable. I called the management office and asked to speak with the compliance coordinator. A woman named Dana Reyes returned my call 10 minutes later. I told her I had received documents bearing an unauthorized signature. Her tone changed at once. Are you saying you did not sign the guarantor agreement? I did not sign any document related to my sister's application. Did you authorize her to use your address? No. Did you agree that she and her child could reside in your unit? No. Dana became very quiet. I heard keys tapping. Miss Sutton, would you be willing to come to the office? I can be there at noon. I brought the originals in a clear document sleeve. Dana met me in a small conference room behind the leasing office. She was in her early 50s, with silver-threaded hair and the patient expression of someone who had seen many people mistake confidence for credibility. She compared the papers I had received with the digital application. There are additional documents, she said. How many? 7. She turned her monitor toward me. The screen displayed a scanned copy of my driver's license, my old driver's license. It had expired 2 years earlier. My stomach tightened. I knew exactly where Vivian had gotten it. The previous Christmas, my mother had asked me to bring identification because she was updating the emergency information folder she kept in a fireproof box. She had copied my license, insurance card, and passport. I had thought it was excessive. I had not thought it was dangerous. Dana scrolled. There was a bank statement with my name and address submitted as proof that I could cover the lease if Vivian failed to pay. The numbers had been altered. The opening balance was real. The closing balance was not. I stared at the statement. That account was closed 18 months ago. Dana folded her hands. Your sister's application was initially denied due to income verification. A revised packet was submitted 2 days later with you listed as guarantor. Who uploaded it? The applicant portal shows her login. Was it approved? It was conditionally approved. The lease signing is scheduled for Friday. Friday was 2 days away. Has she paid anything? A holding deposit of $500. From whose account? Dana checked. An electronic transfer from Sutton Family Holdings. That name belonged to my parents' small property company. They owned 2 rental houses and spoke about them as if they controlled a real estate empire. So my parents are involved. I can't determine intent, Dana said carefully, but the transfer originated from the business listed. I appreciated her precision. Intent was not documented. Participation was. Can you place a fraud hold on the application? Yes, I will also refer this to corporate risk. I'd like written confirmation that I disputed the documents before the lease was executed. She nodded. You'll have it today. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong because I had evaluated the situation as an auditor. My family evaluated it as a public relations crisis. At 6 that evening, Vivian knocked on my door. She had Milo with her, a leather tote on one shoulder, and her phone held at the angle she used when she might begin recording. Milo wore tiny white sneakers and carried a stuffed dinosaur by its tail. None of this was his fault, that mattered. Can we come in? Vivian asked. You can, your phone stays off. Her smile tightened. I'm not recording you. Then putting it away should be easy. She slid it into her bag. Milo ran to the basket near my sofa where I kept wooden puzzles for visiting children. I had bought them for a friend's grandchildren. Vivian noticed. See, she said. You're already set up, for guests. He loves you. He barely knows me. That's because you never come around. I closed the door. Vivian walked through my living room as though assessing it for future use. Her eyes paused on my desk. You have plenty of space. For what? A little play area. Just until I figure things out. I already told Mom no. She said you were overwhelmed and reacted badly. I reacted accurately. Vivian lowered her voice. Grant emptied our joint account. I studied her face. That could have been true. Her marriage had been unstable for years, although online it remained a carefully lit sequence of anniversary tributes and coordinated holiday outfits. Have you spoken to an attorney? I can't afford an attorney. There are legal aid services. I don't need a lecture. I need my sister. There was the hook. Not help, not advice, proof of love. In my family, love was measured by how much inconvenience I accepted without documentation. I can help you research childcare programs, I said. I can review your budget. I can give you the names of 2 family law attorneys who offer consultations. I need you to watch Milo. I can't do that while I work. You don't even have meetings all day. How would you know? She glanced away. That small movement told me more than her answer would have. Did Mom give you my work schedule? She said you're usually free after lunch. I am not free. My calendar has fewer meetings because I conduct independent file reviews. You're making this complicated. No, I'm describing it. She crossed her arms. I already accepted a position. That was new. You told Mom you had interviews. I didn't want everyone in my business. What position? Brand Partnerships Coordinator for the Halcyon Children's Foundation. I knew the name. The foundation was opening a new community center and hosting a fundraising gala at our apartment complex clubhouse on Saturday. Gold balloons, photographers, local business owners. The kind of event Vivian considered oxygen. When do you start? Monday. And you accepted without childcare? I had childcare. No, you had a plan involving me that I never approved. Her eyes hardened. Do you know how humiliating it is to start over at 42? Yes. She blinked. She had expected either sympathy or resistance. Not recognition, I continued calmly. It is also frightening. That doesn't give you the right to forge my signature. The room changed. Even Milo looked up from the puzzle. Vivian's expression became blank, then wounded. I did not forge anything. Someone submitted my old driver's license, an altered bank statement, and a guarantor agreement using my name. Mom handled the application. There it was, the first crack in the frame. Your login uploaded the documents. She was helping me. Did you know she used my information? Vivian looked toward the window. It wasn't supposed to matter. That isn't an answer. The lease would be in my name. You would never have to pay anything. Then why did you need me as guarantor? Because their income formula is ridiculous. Did you know? She looked at me again. Her voice dropped. You were never going to be affected. I had reviewed hundreds of fraud cases that began with those words. The victim was never supposed to notice. The payment was never supposed to fail. The signature was only temporary. The money would be replaced. The truth would remain safely outside the frame. You need to withdraw the application, I said. I already gave notice at my house. That does not make the documents legitimate. Do you want Milo and me homeless? No, I want you to correct what you did. Same thing. No, Vivian, consequences and cruelty are not the same thing. She laughed once without humor. You always do this. Do what? Make yourself morally superior because you understand paperwork. I understand consent. She picked up her bag. You know what Mom says about you? I assume she says many things. She says you've spent your whole life waiting for the family to make a mistake so you can finally feel important. The sentence landed because it had been shaped for that purpose. It was meant to turn my competence into resentment, my caution into jealousy, my records into revenge. I looked at Milo, who had fitted the last puzzle piece into place and was smiling at the completed picture. Then I looked at my sister. I don't wait for mistakes, I said. I notice them before they become disasters. She left without saying goodbye. The next morning, my father called. He did not greet me. Withdraw the fraud complaint. I reported unauthorized documents. You reported your own sister like a criminal. She submitted falsified records. She made a desperate choice. With access to my identity, you're protected. That is not the point. It is exactly the point. No money was taken from you. An altered financial statement was submitted in my name. My father exhaled heavily. Do you know what happens if this gets out? Vivian could lose the foundation job. She should have considered that. You would ruin her career over a lease? No. She risked her career over a lease. He was silent. Then he used the voice he once reserved for defective tenants and late contractors. Your mother and I have invested a great deal in helping Vivian recover. We will not allow you to sabotage her because of old sibling resentment. What exactly have you invested? That is none of your concern. It became my concern when Sutton Family Holdings paid the deposit. Another silence. This one was sharper. How do you know that? Paper. You had no right to access private banking information. I didn't. The property manager confirmed the source of the application payment. You're twisting ordinary family support into something ugly. I'm trying to understand the extent of the involvement. You need to stop. Is that a request or an ultimatum? His answer came quickly. If you continue this, you are choosing not to be part of this family. There it was, the oldest boundary in our household. The family ended wherever my compliance began. I won't withdraw the dispute, I said. Then don't expect us to forget this. He hung up. I sat quietly for several minutes. Then I documented the call. Date. Time. Statements made. No interpretation. Facts do not need adjectives when they are strong enough. That afternoon, Dana emailed me confirmation that the application had been suspended. Corporate Risk had identified another discrepancy. The employment verification letter submitted with Vivian's application appeared to have been signed by a senior officer at the Halcyon Children's Foundation. But the officer's title was wrong. The letterhead was outdated. And the listed salary was nearly twice the amount shown in the Foundation's actual verification response. I called Dana. Was the employment letter uploaded with the second packet? Yes. Along with my documents? Yes. Has the Foundation been notified? Corporate Risk contacted its human resources director this morning. I closed my eyes. Vivian had not simply falsified my guarantee. She had inflated her future salary to qualify for an apartment she could not afford. Do you know who created the letter? I asked. We can only confirm it came through her portal. By Friday morning, Vivian's job offer had been suspended pending an internal review. By Friday afternoon, my mother had told the extended family that I had deliberately cost my sister both her apartment and her livelihood. The calls began. An aunt told me family should handle matters privately. A cousin said I had always been jealous of Vivian's confidence. My mother's closest friend sent me a paragraph about forgiveness that included 3 prayer hand emojis. No one asked what documents had been submitted. They asked why I had made them matter. That evening, I received an invitation by email to Saturday's Halcyon Children's Foundation Gala. I had not purchased a ticket. The invitation came from the Foundation's board chair, Margaret Chen. Her message was brief. Miss Sutton, your name appears in materials connected to an active internal review. We would appreciate an opportunity to speak with you privately before tomorrow evening's event. Please bring any original documentation in your possession. I read it twice. Then I printed it. Saturday's gala was supposed to be the public unveiling of the Foundation's new family resource initiative. Vivian had already posted about it for weeks. She had shared photographs of herself touring the unfinished community center, standing beside donation plaques, and holding fabric swatches for the children's reading room. Her captions described the project as a dream built through compassion and community. She had not yet started working there, but online, she appeared to be leading it. At 4 o'clock Saturday afternoon, my mother arrived at my apartment. She was dressed for the gala in a silver blue suit and pearl earrings. She looked elegant, controlled, and deeply offended. "I came to give you one last chance," she said. "To do what? Stay home tonight." I had expected the request. I had not expected the fear behind it. "Why? Because your presence will be interpreted as hostility." "By whom?" "Everyone. That seems inefficient. Don't be clever. I'm asking a direct question." She stepped inside without being invited and closed the door behind her. "Your father and I are major sponsors tonight." I knew they had donated. I had not known how much. How major? $25,000. That was more than their property company had cleared the previous year. Where did that money come from? Her mouth tightened. "We refinanced one of the rentals. To sponsor Vivian's employer, to support families, and improve her position. You make generosity sound corrupt. Was the donation connected to her hiring?" "No." The answer was too fast. I walked to my desk and opened the Vivian residency issue folder. My mother watched me. "What are you doing?" "Reviewing the timeline." "You are not auditing us. You used my identification in a falsified lease application." "I used a copy I already had." "That is not the same as stealing. It is when I didn't authorize it." Vivian needed stability. "Then why inflate her salary?" My mother's face changed. "Only slightly, but enough. You know about that?" "The foundation does too." She lowered herself onto the edge of my sofa. For the first time, she looked her age, not defeated, cornered. The salary was going to increase after her probationary period. Was that in writing? It was discussed. With whom? She did not answer. "Did Vivian create the employment letter?" My mother looked toward the courtyard. The clubhouse windows glowed beyond the trees. Staff were arranging tall floral displays near the entrance. "Your father drafted it," she said. The room became very still. "Why?" "He has experience with business correspondence." "That is not what I asked." The apartment required income equal to 3 times the rent. Vivian's starting salary fell short by $400 a month. It was absurd. So Dad created a false employment verification letter. He adjusted the future compensation. "And you supplied my identification. We thought your guarantee would make the income letter irrelevant." She stood, "we were trying to help your sister." "No. You were trying to build a result and then force reality to match it." Her eyes flashed. "Do you enjoy this?" "What? Watching her fail?" I considered the question carefully. "No," I said. "I hate watching all of you turn every rescue into a larger emergency." She stared at me. Then she straightened her jacket. "If you go tonight, you will humiliate your father in front of everyone who respects him." I picked up the clear document case from my desk. Inside were the original forged guarantor agreement, the altered bank statement, the expired license copy, Dana's written confirmation, and my notes from every family conversation. "I'm not responsible for what the documents say. You are responsible for who sees them." That was the central belief of my family. Wrongdoing was unfortunate. Exposure was unforgivable. At 6:30, I crossed the courtyard to the clubhouse. I wore a navy dress, low heels, and no jewelry except my watch. The event was already crowded. Through the glass doors, I saw local business owners, city officials, foundation donors, and several women posing beneath a gold sign that read "Building Brighter Futures." My parents stood near the center of the room. My father wore a tuxedo. My mother had recovered her smile. Vivian stood beside them in a cream-colored dress, holding Milo's hand for a photographer. She looked composed, almost radiant. The frame was perfect. I entered through the side door and asked for Margaret Chen. A volunteer led me to a small office behind the catering kitchen. Margaret was waiting with Dana, the foundation's human resources director, and an attorney named Stephen Cole. No one raised a voice. No one needed to. Margaret gestured to the table. "Miss Sutton, thank you for coming." I placed the document case in front of her. "These are the originals." For the next 20 minutes, I explained the timeline. I did not describe Vivian as selfish. I did not describe my parents as manipulative. I did not explain my childhood. I showed them the unauthorized guarantee, the altered financial statement, the expired license, the email confirming the application hold, my notes from the calls. Then the attorney showed me a copy of the employment letter. I recognized my father's formatting immediately. He used 2 spaces after every period and aligned dates with manual tabs instead of proper margins. Old habits leave fingerprints. "Do you recognize this document?" Stephen asked. I recognize the formatting style. "I cannot prove authorship from style alone. Your mother indicated today that your father prepared it?" "Yes." "You documented that conversation?" I handed him the page. Date, time, exact words. He read it silently. Margaret removed her glasses. "There is another issue," she said. She opened a folder bearing the foundation's logo. "Your sister submitted a portfolio during the hiring process. Several program designs in that portfolio were presented as her original work." I waited. "They appear to belong to a consultant who worked with us 3 years ago. Professional plagiarism. The same pattern. A convincing frame built around someone else's paper. Was Vivian involved with the foundation 3 years ago?" I asked. "No. Did my parents have access to the materials?" Margaret looked at the attorney. He answered, "Your father served on an advisory fundraising committee at that time." I felt something inside me settle, not surprise, recognition. The lease fraud had not been a desperate act. It was part of a family method. My parents had used an old professional connection to obtain internal program plans. Vivian had presented them as her own. The foundation hired her partly because of work she had never done. Then my father created an inflated salary letter, and my mother supplied my identity to secure the apartment that would complete the image of her successful new beginning. Job, apartment, Gala photographs, a whole life assembled from borrowed pieces. "What happens now?" I asked. Margaret's voice remained calm. "The board is meeting before the program announcement. The employment offer will likely be rescinded. We will also determine whether the portfolio matter requires legal action. And tonight's event, the fundraiser will continue. The Family Resource Initiative is legitimate, even if the person publicly associated with it is not." She looked at Stephen. He nodded. "We may need to speak with your father before the board votes. Then you should do it before he makes any statements from the stage." Margaret glanced at the printed program. My father was scheduled to present the ceremonial donation at 7:15. It was 7:12. The 3 of them moved quickly but without drama. That was what authority often looked like. Not noise, direction. Stephen asked me to remain in the office. Through the wall, I heard applause as the program began. A host welcomed the guests. Someone spoke about community trust. Then there was a pause longer than the script allowed. Muted conversation followed. A door opened in the hallway. My father's voice carried clearly. "This is completely unnecessary," Stephen replied, too softly for me to hear. My mother said, "Not here." Then Vivian spoke. "Rachel did this?" Her voice was not loud. It did not need to be. The room beyond had gone quiet enough to receive it. The office door opened. Vivian stood there, pale and rigid. My parents were behind her with Margaret and Stephen. Milo was no longer with them. Someone sensible had taken him elsewhere. Vivian looked at the document case. "You brought them?" They asked for the originals. "You could have refused." "Yes. Why didn't you?" "Because they belong in the hands of the people responsible for making decisions." My father stepped forward. "This family has supported you your entire life. That isn't relevant to whether the documents are genuine. Everything is a transaction to you. No, transactions are documented. That is why they are harder to rewrite later." My mother closed her eyes briefly. Margaret addressed my father. "The board needs a direct answer. Did you create the employment verification letter attributed to our chief operating officer?" He glanced toward the ballroom. People were watching from the hallway now, not openly, but public rooms have their own gravity. Silence pulls attention. My father lowered his voice. "I drafted a provisional letter based on compensation discussions. Our chief operating officer never authorized it," Margaret said. It reflected the expected salary. No expected salary was approved. Vivian looked at him. For the first time, she seemed genuinely shocked. "You said they knew." My father turned to her. "This is not the place. You said Margaret approved the higher number." "I said it would be approved." A small distinction, a devastating one. My mother reached for Vivian's arm, but Vivian pulled away. The frame was cracking from inside now. Stephen asked, "Did you also provide Miss Sutton's bank statement and identification for the lease application?" My mother answered. "I gave Vivian documents Rachel had previously provided to me." "For emergency records," I said. She looked at me. That was the moment the crowd shifted. Not physically. Morally. Until then, some of them may have believed they were watching an unpleasant family dispute. But people understand the misuse of trust. A mother keeping her daughter's identification for emergencies felt familiar. Using it to support another child's fraudulent lease did too. The difference between those acts was not complicated. It was a boundary. Dana spoke for the first time. "The apartment application has been permanently denied. The matter has been referred to corporate counsel and our identity fraud unit." My mother's shoulders dropped. Vivian turned toward the ballroom, where the donation presentation table remained beneath bright stage lights. Her name had been printed on a standing banner beside it. She walked over to the banner and pulled it down. No one tried to stop her. The event continued 30 minutes later. The foundation announced the program without mentioning Vivian. My father did not present the donation. Margaret did. She thanked Sutton Family Holdings for its contribution, but stated that the board was reviewing administrative irregularities involving certain associated materials. It was elegant language, the kind that does not accuse beyond proof. It did not need to. By Monday, Vivian's job offer had been formally rescinded. The foundation declined to pursue criminal charges over the plagiarized portfolio after the original consultant accepted a settlement funded partly by my parents. The foundation did, however, issue a private notice to several partner organizations confirming that Vivian had not created the work she had presented. Her professional reputation did not collapse in one dramatic instant. It narrowed. Calls went unanswered. Introductions stopped arriving. People who had praised her creativity began removing her tags from old posts. Her online audience noticed that she no longer mentioned the foundation. Vivian posted vague statements about protecting her peace and walking away from toxic environments. For several weeks, my mother reacted positively to everyone. My father's consequences were more tangible. Sutton Family Holdings lost its preferred financing relationship after the altered employment letter surfaced during a lender review. Their refinance on the second rental property was delayed, and the legal settlement forced them to sell the smaller house earlier than planned. The lease fraud did not result in criminal charges. I chose not to press for prosecution after the property company accepted a written fraud finding, banned Vivian from applying at any of its communities for 5 years, and provided me with identity monitoring services. Some people thought I was too lenient. Others thought I had been cruel from the beginning. I stopped trying to manage opinions unsupported by evidence. Vivian moved into our parents' guest room. For 6 months, they provided the childcare they had assigned to me. Reality has a way of correcting false schedules. Our relationship did not heal quickly. Perhaps it never fully healed at all, but something changed. The demands stopped arriving disguised as decisions. My mother no longer called to tell me what I would do, she asked. Sometimes I still said no. The world continued. A year after the gala, Vivian sent me an envelope. Inside was a copy of her new apartment lease. No guarantor, no altered salary, no borrowed address. Across the top, she had written one sentence. I did this one honestly. I placed it in the back of the old document folder. Not because I distrusted her, because proof can mark improvement too. These days, I still live in the same apartment. I work beside the same window overlooking the courtyard. In the evenings, I make tea, turn off both monitors, and watch the light move across Building 4. Another family lives there now. Sometimes a little boy rides his scooter along the path while his father walks behind him carrying a grocery bag. It is ordinary, quiet, unphotographed. I have come to value that kind of life. For years, my family believed the person outside the frame was the one who had been excluded. They were wrong. Sometimes stepping outside the frame is the only way to see what has been cropped away. And sometimes the most loving thing you can do, for yourself and even for the people who resent you, is to stop helping them hide the truth. Keep the messages. Save the documents. Write down what was said, not because every family disagreement belongs in a file, but because when someone depends on confusion, clarity becomes a boundary. You do not have to scream to defend it. You do not have to make a scene. You only have to place the right paper in the right hands and let reality speak in its own calm voice.